Thousands of Australians are quietly listing their dream homes right now, not because they failed, because they finally figured something out. For decades, the real estate industry sold one idea: own a home in a major city. That is how you win, and most people believed it. But something changed in 2026. The people paying attention, the ones running numbers at their kitchen tables late at night, are reaching a conclusion the industry does not want them to reach. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what that conclusion is. And the third reason on this list will change how you think about what your home is actually worth. Not on paper, but in your life. Here is what the mainstream will not tell you. Australian home values rose 8.8% in 2025. The total value of all homes in this country hit $12.3 trillion by the end of last year. By every number the industry uses, the market looks like a win. And yet, 46% of Australians now believe owning a home is out of reach. Not hard, not unlikely, out of reach entirely. That number has never been higher. So here is where we actually are. A market worth $12 trillion. Prices rising faster than wages. And nearly half the country quietly walking away from the dream. That is not a success story. That is a system that stopped working for the people it was built to serve. I pulled data from KPMG, CoreLogic, the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and age pension reform discussions. I read thousands of forum posts from Australians debating right now whether 2026 is the year they finally move. I studied the numbers. I spoke with people who already made the decision and people standing right at the edge of it. What I found is not a crash prediction. It is not a scare piece. It is an honest look at why a growing number of Australians, seniors, stretched families, and exhausted city dwellers are making a deliberate choice to sell, and what they are finding on the other side. This is that story. There is a conversation happening across Australia right now, in retirement villages, at family dinners, in financial planning offices. And it is not the conversation the industry wants you to be having. It starts with one question, a question that sounds simple but carries real weight. Is holding on to this house actually costing us our retirement? Here is why more Australians are asking that in 2026 than ever before. The age pension assets test creates financial pressure on seniors sitting in high-value homes. As property values climbed, and they climbed hard, the assets surrounding the family home grew too. Super balances, savings accounts, investment holdings, all of it measured against thresholds that have not kept up with what retirement actually costs today. The family home itself is still exempt from the assets test. That protection has not changed. But the reform conversation, the ongoing debate about whether that exemption survives in its current form, is enough on its own to shift behavior. It does not take a new law to make people act differently. It takes uncertainty. And in 2026, there is plenty of it. The result, according to research from realestate.com.au, is that around 60,000 homes could come to market as seniors explore what the industry calls right sizing. Smaller property, lower costs, pension eligibility protected, financial breathing room restored. Picture this. A couple in their early 70s in outer Melbourne. They bought their home in the early 90s for under $100,000. That same home is now worth somewhere between $800,000 and $1 million. On paper, they are set. In reality, they are asset rich and cash poor. The rates bill keeps climbing. The insurance premium jumped at the last renewal. The hot water system needs replacing. The gutters need work. Every time they sit down to look at the numbers, the story is the same. The house that was supposed to fund their retirement is quietly draining it instead. They are not in trouble. They are not panicking. They are just doing the maths. And the maths is telling them something the industry spent decades insisting was unthinkable. The old wisdom, passed down through generations of Australian families, says you never sell the family home. It is the foundation, the legacy, the thing you hold no matter what. But that wisdom was built for a different era, one where home values were modest, where maintenance was manageable, where the pension system was designed for a much simpler picture of retirement wealth. That era is gone. And for a growing number of seniors in 2026, holding the family home is not the safe, conservative choice. It is the most financially exposed position they could be in. The pension pressure is real. The reform conversation is not going away. And the 60,000 homes that could come to market as a result of this shift represent something significant, not just for housing supply, but for the seniors making those decisions and what they choose to do next. Which brings us to the second reason Australians are selling in 2026. And this one has nothing to do with age. It has everything to do with a cost of living reality that is quietly grinding down the middle class, including people who thought they had already made it. There is a kind of financial exhaustion that never makes the headlines. It is not bankruptcy, not foreclosure, not the dramatic collapse that gets the news segment. It is quieter than that. It is the slow realization that you are doing everything right, and it is still not enough. You own your home. You have a steady income. You are not behind on anything. And yet, every quarter, every renewal, every unexpected bill takes another bite out of the margin you thought you had built. The mortgage is manageable. Everything around the mortgage is not. This is the reality for a growing number of Australian homeowners in 2026. Council rates have compounded year on year. Home insurance, especially in Queensland and parts of New South Wales, where climate risk is now priced directly into policies, has jumped in ways that feel completely disconnected from anything the individual homeowner did or did not do. Energy costs remain high, and the maintenance reality of a large suburban home is relentless. There is always something. There is always a cost. Here is a useful way to think about it. Owning a large suburban home in 2026 is less like owning an asset and more like owning a boat. The purchase price is just the entry fee. The ongoing cost of keeping it running is the part nobody puts in the brochure. Now add one more data point that most homeowners have not fully absorbed. Listings across Australia are sitting 18% below 5-year averages. Supply is tight, demand is not. Sellers who move in 2026 are entering a market where their property gets serious attention, where buyers are competing, and where the equity they have built is at or near its highest point. The cost of staying, holding a large, expensive property in an overpriced city market when that equity could be completely redirected, is now measurable in real dollars. And more Australians are measuring it. Consider a family in Brisbane's inner suburbs, both parents working full-time. The mortgage is not the problem. That was the number they planned for. What they did not plan for was the insurance renewal that came in 30% higher, the rates notice that landed the same week, the school fees, the car registration, the grocery bill that never came back down the way the Reserve Bank said it would. They are not behind. Nothing about their situation looks broken from the outside, but they are worn down, and they have started asking a question that would have seemed extreme to them 5 years ago. What if we sold, took the equity, and started somewhere the numbers actually work? That question is being asked at kitchen tables all over Australia right now, not by people who failed, by people who are paying attention. The old belief says owning your home protects you from cost of living pressure, that once you are in the market, you are insulated. The reality in 2026 is that for many Australians, the home itself has become one of the biggest cost of living pressures they face. The asset that was supposed to provide security has become, in many cases, the single largest drain on their finances and their energy. But if pension pressure and cost of living were the only forces at play, this would just be a story about financial stress. The third reason Australians are selling in 2026 is something else entirely. It is not about pressure. It is about a deliberate, eyes-open choice. And it is the most interesting part of this whole story. This is the part the industry cannot explain, because it does not fit the story they have been telling. The sellers in this group are not distressed. Nobody is pushing them. They are not reacting to a policy change or a market signal. They are making a choice. A clear, informed, deliberate choice to sell at or near peak value and redirect their equity toward a life the industry never thought to offer them. They are not leaving because they lost. They are leaving because they won. and they have decided to spend those winnings differently. To understand why this is happening now, you need to understand what the last property cycle did to ordinary homeowners in Perth and Brisbane. Perth recorded 12.8% house price growth in the most recent period. Brisbane recorded 10.9%. People who bought modest homes in ordinary suburbs a decade ago are now sitting on equity that would have seemed impossible when they signed the original contract. And here is where it gets genuinely interesting. That equity, redirected into select regional Australian markets, does not just buy a home. It buys a completely different life. It wipes out debt entirely. It creates a financial buffer that changes the feel of every single day. Most importantly, it buys time, which is the one thing that no amount of urban career success has ever reliably delivered. The dream home of 2026 is being quietly redefined, not by the industry, by the people who actually did the maths. It is not a large block in a premium postcode with a 2-hour daily commute. It is a calmer, more personal space in a community where belonging is real, where the pace of life is chosen, not imposed, where the financial pressure that became the background noise of city living simply does not exist in the same form. A woman in her late 50s, former project manager from Sydney's inner west, she sold her 3-bedroom terrace in 2025 for just under $1.2 million. She relocated to a coastal town in regional New South Wales. She bought outright, no mortgage, no debt, for $380,000. She kept the rest. When I came across her account of the decision, one line stayed with me. She said, "I spent 20 years chasing a version of success that was making me miserable. I sold the dream they gave me and bought the life I actually wanted." That is not a financial story. That is a clarity story. And it is playing out in different forms across thousands of Australian households right now. Here is the part most financial commentary gets wrong. Selling in a rising market is almost always framed as leaving money on the table. You are exiting too early. You are giving up future gains. The entire industry retention argument is built on that logic. But selling at peak value in an overpriced city market and redirecting that equity into an undervalued regional market is not leaving money on the table. It is a calculated move. One of the most practical financial decisions available to everyday Australians right now. The people making it are not the ones who gave up. They are the ones who worked it out. Now, the obvious question, where are they actually going? Because the algorithm will push you toward the same coastal hotspots everyone already knows. The ones already discovered, already priced up, already featured in every weekend supplement for the past 3 years. What I found when I went deeper is something different. That is what comes next. The real estate industry has a structural problem with regional Australia. There is no financial incentive to send buyers away from premium city markets. The platforms are built for high-value transactions. The media follows the commissions. The result is a consistent, ongoing blind spot. Regional markets that, by any honest measure, offer a genuinely strong case for a specific and growing type of Australian buyer. The algorithm is not lying to you. It is just not working for you. It is working for the industry. So here is what it is not showing you. Population growth in Australia is outpacing new home completions nationally. That supply gap is well documented. What gets far less attention is that this pressure has not yet fully reached select regional markets, places where affordability still exists, where infrastructure has quietly improved over the past decade, and where the lifestyle on offer is genuinely different from what the word regional used to mean. The profile of the regional buyer has shifted. It is no longer just retirees chasing a quieter pace. It is people in their 40s with remote work arrangements who have done the commute calculation and found it does not add up. It is equity-rich city sellers who have run the numbers and realized their urban equity, redirected regionally, removes every financial constraint they currently live under. It is professionals who looked at what their city salary actually buys. After tax, after mortgage, after the full cost of urban living, and decided the equation no longer works in their favor. A couple in their mid-40s from Melbourne's eastern suburbs. He works remotely in tech, She runs a small online business. They sold their 4-bedroom home in 2024, relocated to a regional Victorian town, and bought a larger property, more land, more space, better quality of life by every measure they cared about, for less than half the price of their Melbourne home. The remaining equity cleared every other debt they had. When they described the move, they were careful about the language they used. They did not call it downsizing. They called it upgrading everything except the postcode. That framing matters. The conventional story about regional relocation is built on the language of sacrifice. You are giving something up. You are settling. You are choosing less. The reality for a specific and growing group of Australians is the opposite. When the numbers are right and the destination is chosen carefully, regional relocation is not a reduction in quality of life. It is a restructuring of it. The things costing the most, financially, emotionally, in terms of time, are removed. The things being sacrificed to maintain the city lifestyle, space, community, pace, financial margin, are restored. The industry has no language for this because it has no product to sell in this transaction. The commission on a $350,000 regional property is not the commission on a $1.2 million city terrace. The incentive to tell you this story simply does not exist within the system, which is exactly why most people never hear it. But before I give you the full picture, I need to do something most channels in this space will not do. I need to tell you who this is not for, because the most irresponsible thing I could do right now is let you walk away thinking selling is the right answer for everyone. It is not. And the next section matters most for a significant number of people watching this. Let me be straight with you. Everything in this video so far, the pension pressure, the cost of living squeeze, the deliberate equity migration, the regional opportunity, is real. The data supports it. The stories are genuine. The trend is documented. And none of it applies to everyone. KPMG and Australia's major banks are forecasting 7.7% national price growth in 2026. That is not a fringe view. That is the mainstream consensus from serious economic analysts. The drivers behind it, population growth, constrained supply, ongoing migration, are structural. They do not disappear because sentiment shifts or because a YouTube video makes a compelling case for selling. For owners in strong growth areas with long time horizons, selling in 2026 may mean walking away from a market that keeps compounding in their favor for years to come. The opportunity cost of leaving runs in both directions. Anyone who tells you otherwise is not giving you the full picture. The pension reform pressure is real, but it is indirect. No law in 2026 forces any Australian to sell their home. The family home exemption is still in place. The pressure is financial and psychological, not legal. For many seniors, particularly those in modest value properties or with limited options elsewhere, the numbers simply do not support a move. The disruption cost, financial, emotional, and social, outweighs the benefit. Here is a straightforward framework for working out which side of this you are on. The decision to sell makes sense when three things line up at the same time. First, the equity gap is large enough to materially change your financial position, not just marginally improve it. Second, the destination market offers a specific, researched, numbers-backed upgrade, not a vague feeling that somewhere else might be better. Third, you have genuine clarity on what you are moving toward, not just what you are escaping. Selling to escape a situation is a fundamentally different decision from selling to arrive somewhere. The outcomes are different. The regret rates are different. A retired teacher in Adelaide, she read about the pension reform discussions and started wondering whether she should sell. She sat down with a financial advisor and ran the actual numbers. Her home had grown in value, but not dramatically. Her pension was not significantly affected by her current position. Her doctors, her community, her grandchildren, all within 15 minutes. The advisor's conclusion was clear. The numbers do not support selling. Your life does not support leaving. She stayed. That was the right call. And it was right precisely because she did the work to find out, rather than being swept along by a narrative that did not apply to her. The question is never simply whether to sell. The question is whether your specific situation, your equity, your destination options, your life priorities, your financial structure makes selling the move that actually serves you. That is a personal calculation. It requires real numbers, honest advice, and clarity about what you want your life to look like on the other side. For some Australians in 2026, selling is the most powerful decision available to them. For others, it is the wrong move entirely. The difference between those two groups is not luck. It is the quality of the thinking they bring to the question. What is happening in Australia's housing market in 2026 is not a crash. It is not a crisis. It is something quieter and more significant than either of those things. It is a recalibration. Thousands of ordinary Australians looking honestly at what the industry sold them, running the real numbers, and choosing differently. The pension pressures are real. The cost of ownership has grown in ways that were never in the original plan. The equity available to sellers right now is genuinely life-changing when redirected with intention. And the regional places the algorithm ignores, where that equity buys not just a home, but a completely different quality of life, are there, waiting, underpriced, and largely unknown to the people who need them most. The dream home was never the destination. It was always supposed to be the vehicle. For the Australians who have worked that out, who sold the marketed dream and bought the life they actually wanted, the 2026 warning was not a threat. It was the clearest signal they ever received. If this channel gives you the kind of research and honesty you cannot find in the mainstream real estate conversation, subscribe, because every video here is built the same way. Real data, no spin, and the parts of the story the industry has no reason to tell you.